I'm doing an unscripted and disgustingly casual video today, and if you have watched any of my book reviews, you'll know that I like everything to be completely scripted down to the last word. I'm not good at doing this kind of stuff. Basically, I'm going to change the way that I do book reviews. So usually I do a review for each book, and I'm going to change doing that. I'm going to do maybe just like one short video a month with an update of what I've been reading and what I think is a good book. So why am I doing these changes? And I've got notes because like really shit at this stuff. Right, okay. I've decided that I need to stop doing book reviews. Basically, the universe is telling me to stop doing them. I had a problem with my laptop, or I couldn't use my laptop for like over a week, which was just like crazy. So that was kind of a sign that I needed to spend less time on the laptop. And then pens kept stopped working. So like over a week, 5 pens just stopped working. Like that literally never happens. I know a lot of people don't believe in all this stuff, but I'm just like, you get signs, and it's like the signs are telling me that I need to stop writing book reviews. I think that is the sign. I don't know, it could be something completely irrelevant, like completely different to that, but I'm going to take that as the sign. Okay, so what else are other signs? Oh, I've been getting a bit pissed off with YouTube lately. so I mean, just as a viewer of YouTube, I mean, the level of censorship is just like crazy on YouTube now. And there's a lot of stuff I watch on other channels now because YouTube is there's just so much stuff that's not on there. And also I had a little bit of funny stuff with YouTube myself because of a video, because it had like, I don't know, the C word in it or whatever. And no, not that one. So that's a bit irritating. And I had a couple of funny comments. And so I just thought, oh, these are like all signs to just maybe move away from YouTube a bit. I have set up a channel on Odyssey. And I don't know how many people really use that. I mean, YouTube's reach is just absolutely huge compared to a lot of the other channels. So other reasons, I've also consulted the tarot cards, and I think they're supportive of the decision. I think they're trying to. We're in a period of rapid change at the moment. There's a lot of changes. I think that's for me personally, and I mean the world and just everything. And a lot of people I speak to, they're going through a lot of changes. It's a time of change. So I really enjoy doing book reviews. That's why I do it. But I also enjoy lots of other writing that I do. And to be fair, you know, I probably don't do enough of that, give enough time to that, because I'm trying to focus on getting book reviews done. So I'm thinking maybe that will give me more time to try and complete some projects, rather than having a lot of things on the boil and only really getting completed on book reviews. So I'm going to do like a monthly just recap of books that I've been reading, because I still think it's interesting to share what I've been reading, especially if other people have read it and they're like, oh yes, I thought that was a good book, or I've been thinking about reading that, and you know, yeah, it sounds good, maybe I'll give it a go. Reading is always good. It's always good to learn more stuff. So the books that I've read over the last month are these ones. So I've read Scar Tissue by Anthony Kiedis, because I wanted something a bit less heavy. So I was like, I'm going to go for just like an autobiography, just be like nice and not such heavy brain work. So what did I think about this book? This book was amazing. Like, if I had to sum up this book in one word, it would be entertaining. So I've read a few biographies and autobiographies, and this was definitely the most exciting. I mean, there's just like so many crazy life stories. It was just constant entertainment the whole way through. The only thing I would say that was negative about this book is that I just literally couldn't sleep when I was reading this book, because I do a lot of my reading at night, and I was just like one more page, and I'm still reading half an hour later. It was just impossible to put down. It was so readable and entertaining, and I mean, just wow, amazing. What a life. Very exciting. I don't think he's probably the nicest person in the world, but then, you know, a lot of people high up in things are not necessarily the nicest people in the world, but it was told with lots of humour, all the stories. It was very funny the whole way through. So I'd definitely recommend that. It's a really, really, really good book to read. But after I read that, I still felt like I hadn't really had a rest, an easy read, because it was just so consuming. So I read this book, which is Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility. A little bit of a contrast. So I like Jane Austen. I've read a couple of her books before, and I didn't know Sense and Sensibility. It was all right. It was very easygoing and really nice rest. I think the thing with Jane Austen is just an enjoyable read, isn't it? The story probably wasn't the best. I can't really remember it, to be honest. So it wasn't the most exciting story in the world. But I enjoyed reading it. Yeah, it was very, very nice and enjoyable to read. And then after I'd read that, I thought, okay, I've had a rest now. I can go back to some heavy books. So I read this. Surviving Postnatal Depression by Cara Aiken. And this book, it was really good. It was really good. And I think if you've been through postnatal depression, or you think you're going through it, or you work with people who are going through it, or somebody in family or things like that, then it would definitely be a really good book to read, because it really gets you to understand the absolute multitude of issues that are going on, and that there's not necessarily one solution. And I think it really gets across how sort of abandoned mothers are. And it might be the first baby, or it might be a later baby. It's really the whole environment and the whole situation. Some people are more prone to depression, but also it's an incredibly difficult environment to be thrown into, especially if you're somebody who's used to being independent and not having to ask for help. And also you may be now in this position where even when you're asking for help, you're not getting help. I think a lot of being a parent is that you're kind of just absolutely thrown into this situation, and it's like, sink or swim, really. And sometimes you swim and it's an amazing, wonderful time, even though it's really, really hard. And sometimes you sink because you just do not have the tools and the help that you need. I think, I haven't lived all my life yet, but I definitely think that parenting is the hardest thing you do. It's so hard, and it's so incredibly underrated. It's the other thing, as soon as you become a parent, you're kind of looked at as almost as if you're lazy and stupid, which is madness, because this is like the hardest job you will ever do. It's also the most important job you're going to do by a lot, by a lot. So it is a really, really, really important issue, and I think it's great that this book's available. It was written quite a while ago now, but it's still relevant. Depression doesn't really change. But the only thing I would say was it was a bit depressing. It was a bit depressing to read. I think I went through postnatal depression, and I'm not depressed anymore. But yeah, reading about a whole book about depression, it was a bit depressing. But it was still a really good book, really valuable, and I'm really glad I read it, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody who's going through it, thinks they're going to go through it, or is around people who are going through it, because it gives really good insights. So that's all I've read over the last sort of month or so. What I'm planning to read over the next month, I'm reading this book. It's just like colossal. This book, it's Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley, and it's just like a complete giant book. It's interesting. It's all sort of about the politics and economics of sort of the late 19th century, and then up to about 1950, I think. I think he wrote it in about 1960 something, so I think it's not going to go any further than that. And it is interesting, but Jesus, it's a really big book. And look, even the words, it's like the words go right into the spine. So I've been reading it for quite a while now, and I've still got about a quarter of it to go. It's been a really big read. And the other book that I really want to read is this one, Why Formula Feeding Matters. And that's a new book from Pinter and Martin in the White Matters series, and these are great little informative books. They're not sort of completely really in depth, all the detail in the world, but they're a really good overview of subjects. And I want to read this one because I think formula feeding, it is really important, and it's really important that people know about it and they know the best ways to do it, that it's not sort of a thing that's ignored. Yeah, it is really important. So I'm looking forward to reading that book if I ever get through Tragedy and Hope, because that book is seriously big. Okay, so that's it. They're the books that I've been reading or are trying to get through and read over the last month. Okay, thank you.